Morning, everybody, and welcome to Forest Focus. As we reflect on the weekend's 1-0 defeat to Everton. With the chasing pack closing, we'll look back on Forest's hopes of qualifying for the Champions League, pick apart Saturday's performance, and ask what Nuno needs to do to arrest a run of consecutive defeats. Joined today by Forest's European Cup winning striker, Garry Birtles. Morning, Gary.
Morning.
And BBC East Midlands Slate presenter, Emily Anderson. Emily, we'll start with you. You're at the game. What was your immediate reflection at full time?
Really disappointed. It felt really flat. It felt like we didn't really come out of the blocks at all. I would have taken a point in a heartbeat come 90 minutes, and I was ready to take a point. So when we had the sucker punch in injury time, it's probably fair. There wasn't a moment in the game where I thought we could win it. I thought Everton were better than us. It was a horrible game of football. Neither side probably deserved to win over the 90, but if any did, it would be Everton, certainly not Forest. You feel that sense of deflation. Is this the slippery slope? All those thoughts that go through your mind in the immediate aftermath. I feel a bit more reflective today, but at the time in the ground, it felt flat. You saw droves of people leaving before the full-time whistle, which we haven't seen at the City Ground for so long. That was hugely disappointing, but I get it. If you've paid for your ticket and you want to leave early, that is your call. And it just felt very flat, and I could see every single player fall to their knees as that goal went in. It meant a lot to the players. It obviously meant an awful lot to the fans. Horrible mistake by Murillo, but there were lots of mistakes. There were lots of mistakes that led to that, and I can't put the blame solely on Murillo. It's just a really disappointing day, but I think on reflection, bad day at the office, so many factors, injuries, fatigue, pressure, all those things. It was just really disappointing. I just feel really disappointed, but I feel way more reflective today than I did on Saturday night.
This game, Gary, possibly along with Brentford and Leicester at home, would be targeted by Forest fans as home bankers, and possibly the games that were going to get us to that Champions League points tally. How big an opportunity do you feel has been missed?
Well, let's put it in perspective. I think you've got to give David Moyes great credit here, because how many games were they unbeaten coming into this? They've lost one in so many games. They've done really well just lately. They're a team who believe in what they're doing. It was a mixture of emotions. When you saw the team sheet, you saw Chris Wood back, you thought, oh, brilliant. And you saw Elanga on the bench, you thought, oh, superb. Maybe he's not 100%, but, he can come on at any moment. And then I was just sat through the whole thing, looking at the score, 0-0, and looking at the stats, looking at the reports on, that Everton were playing better than we were. And I thought, yeah, like Emily, give us a point now. And then when I saw 94 minutes, we conceded, I thought, oh, my word. But then you go back to the Villa game. Second half against Villa, we were unlucky. We lost the game, but we had so many chances to have got something out of that game. That's the most disappointing for me, because we did create those chances. And that was the first one we lost, and then compounded by the Everton loss. But yeah, it's still in our hands. That's the important thing. That's what we've got to realise. The players will realise that. Nuno will be saying that. And I liked his honesty after the game, saying, we weren't good enough. Everton were better than us. You like that refreshing sort of demeanour that, you don't often see in football from managers. He realised it wasn't a good performance. We've had those. We had the performance at Bournemouth when we got hammered. That was a bad performance. The Fulham game at home, we've bounced back from them. And I think we can do that again. It's, we've not suddenly become a bad team overnight. It's just the opposition have done better than us, slightly.
Chris Wood returned, Emily, found himself isolated and largely ineffective. He was limited to 13 touches in the game, a rare off day for him this season. Did he lack sharpness or service?
A bit of both, actually, Temps. I think if the situation was different, when he hadn't got injured, I don't think Wood would have been risked on Saturday. To me, he seemed a player that wasn't quite at 100%. He went unnoticed, to be honest, in the game, but was he getting the service in? Probably not. So it was a horrible mix of both. A bit like Garry Birtles, when I heard Chris Wood not only in the squad but in the starting lineup, I thought, come on, get in, this is it. We can easily win this 1-0, this will be great. But very soon on, you realise that actually possibly it was too soon for Woody to be back. Not his fault. There's an awful lot of pressure on the team at the moment, so I get why he started. He just didn't feel to me like he was firing on all cylinders. So yeah, not a great game for him, but not a great game for most of the team, to be honest. You could really pinpoint any player, bar a few, that just did not have a great game, and that's the problem when everyone has an off day. And Gary, you'll know this, won't you? That when everyone in the team has an off day, that's what happens. You don't win games, and you sometimes lose them.
How tough is it for a striker to come back in, Gary? Chris has been the talisman so many times this season. He's found a way to score, but didn't quite luck himself. How tough is it to get back up to speed as a focal point and a number 9?
I know that because I had a spinal fusion when I was playing in 1984. I was out for 9 months and trying to get back to speed. And when I was at Man United, I had a problem as well, and I missed a number of games. I'm not saying that was an excuse for me not scoring there, but your fitness levels aren't the same, and it is difficult. And in the modern game, a striker very rarely has that many touches now. You look at Haaland. The people talk about how many touches he has in a game for Manchester City. So the striker is always beholden on his service he gets. And he's had that service all season. So, I mean, I didn't see the game. And, when we've been playing at the great heights we've been playing at, the levels we've been playing at with Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, the service, and Morgan Gibbs-White, he's getting service on a regular basis. Didn't seem like he had that many opportunities, or we created that many opportunities. I think if he'd been playing against Villa, we'd have beat Villa because we created those chances. But it just seems that Everton, very, very good defensively of late. That's been, one of the core things that people have been saying about them. Defensively, they're very difficult to break down. And so it proved again. So, you can forgive sometimes a performance like that, but it's the timing of it that's the annoying thing, because, Newcastle, you're hoping Man United could do as a favour, didn't. Ipswich did as a favour. It was a great result. So it's still in our hands. That's the most important thing. And the players have got to believe that. And Nuno's got to, get that over to him. And he's been doing that all season. What we've seen this season is just incredible. I keep saying it's like waking up from a dream and you're thinking, is this real? It's unbelievable where we are, where we still are, and that it's still in our hands. There's 5 places up for Europe still. We can still be part of that without a doubt.
What did you make of the team selection then, Emily? A full-strength side, really, apart from Jota Silva and Alex Moreno in Reina and Elanga. Was there a drop-off, and would you have picked a different side?
No, I mean, to me, there were no complaints with the starting lineup. Obviously, we hugely missed Reina, and for me, he's one of the big reasons possibly why we're out of form at the moment, because of the work he does off the ball, the one-on-ones, the recoveries, just his all-round play. He's arguably the best right back in the Premier League at the moment. We really miss him, and we did really miss him. And the drop-off for me was switching Nico over and having Moreno on the left. I think Moreno is a great player, but he's not up to speed, and he was not up to speed on Saturday. And time again, he was losing the ball when he shouldn't have been, wayward passing. Like I say, another player that, I'm not harshly criticising Moreno, but he did not have a good game. And Nico's better on the other side, but obviously because of Olarona's injury, we couldn't play him. So yeah, it was just, I think starting lineup great. You had that huge positive with Chris Wood being in the side, Elanga on the bench. Should we possibly have started Elanga? I know Gary says quite a lot, don't you, Gary? If the player's fit enough to play, give me 45 minutes, give me 60 minutes, then rest you. The game had already gone by the time Elanga came on. So it just felt too late. And when Elanga did come on, it didn't feel quite right. His sharpness wasn't there. His pace wasn't there. I think in the circumstances, I'm not sure who else would have started with other than possibly Elanga over Jota. And you could argue that maybe Yates could have had a start, but then Dominguez played really well. He was one of the brighter sparks in the game. So in hindsight, yes, maybe we could have switched up, but at the time, I was happy.
Yeah, Alex Moreno seemed to get targeted a bit by Everton. Certainly a lot of diagonal balls coming his way. Played a lot through that channel. Is that something side set out to do, Gary? Target the player that's a bit of a make weight. It hasn't been in Nuno's best 11 all season. and potentially a weakness they look to exploit?
Look, David Moyes has got so much experience, and he will have looked in modern day football. Every team go through the opposition's weak points, strong points. They'll get videos of what the previous games were. Who can they pick on to, exploit? And yeah, they'll do that. And it's difficult when you're not up to speed. Like Emily said, you can be as fit as you like, you can train as much as you like, but on a match basis, you have to be match fit mentally and physically. And it's not easy to do that. Some people very rarely can do that, especially in the modern game, maybe. But it's difficult when you've not been a regular in the side to come in and you feel the pressure of, right, I've come in, I've got my chance here, I've got to do well. And sometimes that can work against you because you're trying too hard to do the right things. But, I think that's the good thing about Forest. The depth of the squad is particularly good. I don't understand the Yates thing at the moment, where he plays one game, then he's left out the next. Because I listen to the pundits sometimes. I don't always agree with them, but they always say Ryan Yates, he's look what he's done. This is what he did, and they show the good points of what he. So it's a bit baffling that he was left out again. But yeah, it's just. Everton have improved, defensively. They were conceding goals for fun, before, but they have turned things around a little bit. They've picked up, and David Moyes is saying, I saw before the game, he's saying, next season place in Europe, so that's what he's looking to achieve, and you're going to have games like that, but it's at the wrong time of the season. It's been so good so far. The Villa game, could have gone either way, but it sounded like Everton deserved more than we did to win.
Emily, the first half.
As well,
go on.
I was going to say, I think also Everton were set up to stop us from doing what we do, which is counterattack. They were so hard to break down. They've got massive centre backs. They've got huge players. Tactically they did a job on us, didn't they? And I'm surprised more teams don't do that. It wasn't pretty football, but the way they set up, it was never going to be easy for us because we didn't get those counterattacks that we're so used to in the Premier League.
Yeah, Philip Mills made the point in the comments. Did Everton do a Forest in soaking up the pressure, making the best of a tight game and pouncing on that chance that they had? It's a tactic that's proved so fruitful for Forest this year, Gary. Was it inevitable that we'd be undone by our own tactics and style of play at some point?
Inevitable. I think you've got to give Forest credit because we just play the way we play because that's how we do it. The stats always go, ridiculous. If you looked at the stats and not the game, you think, well, how the hell did Forest win that game? Because we're, against even like Ipswich, they've had more possession than us, and we're winning games 4-2 and things like that. So it's the way we play, and it's going to go wrong now. It's going to go wrong. I think other teams have tried to stop us doing that, but have not been able to. So give Everton credit because they managed it. It's I wouldn't change tactics at all because we've seen how fruitful it's been this season. Everybody's praising us for the way we play because they're fed up of seeing the robotic Premier League statistics, and they're all saying, well, look at Nottingham Forest, the way they play. People are trying to stop them, they can't. It's just a breath of fresh air. And why would you change that? It's I said all along, if we get problems with injury up front, we could struggle. That's why I said we try and get a striker in. All those, before the ball was kicked. If Chris Wood and Awoniyi got injured, which they both have, then we could struggle a little bit. And it's coincided with losing those 2 games that the 2 of them have been injured. So you just hope the fitness levels now are going to be okay for the next few games. And just maintain us. Newcastle, if they win the game in hand, go a point above us. But, like I say, Chelsea slipped up yesterday, 2-0 down at home to Ipswich and came back. So I'm just delighted it's still in our hands. And we unless we... I watched the golf last night, Rory McIlroy, he's 4 in front, and the nerves get you in any sport. They get you, because you can see the finishing line, it's there. And it's so difficult to get over that finishing line. And I think we've got the players to be able to do that. And, the games we've got coming up, I'm still confident we can do it.
Only one place to take in Forest Spurs. Let's just pause for a sec and get a word from the Trent Nav.
Hey up me duckies, a quick rundown of match days at the Big Shed. We're open from 10, serving full English breakfast, teas, coffees and, believe it or not, beers. Father's Footy Quiz is followed by the lunchtime kickoffs, and the outdoor kitchen is fired up from midday, serving sourdough pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, pies and sausage rolls. Lovely. Pints start at £4. We have a great selection of cask ales and lagers to lubricate the vocal cords for a bit of a sing-song before the game. After the match, we've got some great DJs and live bands booked. So get your send down to the Trent Nav. Win or lose, we're having a booze. And if we draw, we'll have some more.
Spoke to lots of Forest fans who feel, with hindsight, they'd have taken a point for that one, and certainly would have taken a point as the game dragged on. But at half time, Emily, were you still buoyed? Do you still think there could be a spark from the bench, the introduction of Elanga, or there might just be that moment, as there so often has, that could spark Forest into life?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was a really poor first half, so it didn't look like we were doing anything in the first half. But we still had that hope, didn't we, of Elanga can come off the bench and cause some mischief once the Everton defenders have tired. So yeah, I absolutely did. And I think pre-match, for me, it was a 3-point banker, not banker as in we're going to beat Everton. It's we really should be winning this game. We're really hard to beat at home. We hadn't lost at home since November. So I didn't feel the nerves. It was more frustration, I would say, at half-term, and thinking surely Nuno's team half-time team talk will sort them out and we'll be fine. But it didn't. For whatever reason, it just didn't work on Saturday. But yeah, I was still thinking possibly we could go for the 3 points. But as the game wore on, you could see that the substitutions didn't really work. Even Yatesy couldn't buoy up the crowd when he normally can, can't he? It just didn't work. So I was very, very happy with the points come 90 minutes. And then, like we say, it all went wrong in the last minute.
There was a nervousness in the stands, Emily. Did you feel it? And what do you put it down to? Is it because we're in touching distance of this Champions League dream? And I suppose follow-up question, what can the support do to not pass that nervousness on, to encourage the players and to be the 12th man, as has been the case at Fortress City Ground this season? We haven't been used to seeing defeats.
I have to say, Mull of Kintyre was the loudest I've heard it for a while. It's been loud the last few times, hasn't it? But as I heard it, I was like, yeah, this is good. This is good. The atmosphere is going to be great. The problem was the atmosphere from the stands didn't match what was happening on the pitch. So as the half wore on, the crowd were getting restless and you could feel those nerves and tension. I would say it's yes, because of where we are in the season, where we find ourselves in the league, but also because the performance wasn't happening on the pitch. And I get it that as 12th man G on the team, and it's a circular thing, isn't it? And it can be a vicious cycle. The problem was, I think there was so much at play. We haven't got those key players that, like Oliver Aina, who I've mentioned. Chris Wood wasn't firing on all cylinders. The wingers weren't quite working. The midfield didn't have the best game. Anderson, who's normally fantastic, for whatever reason, he was off. Is it tiredness? Is it nerves? Is it pressure? Only they know that. But my goodness, we need to carry them over the line. We were hoping we would sprint to the Champions League places. We could potentially limp over the line in true Forest style. And if we do, we can help them get over that line. I had a word with myself on Saturday night, feeling quite dejected and down and thinking, oh, it's all over, we're going to blow it. And actually, statistically, like Garry, I think, said, we've not suddenly turned into a bad team overnight. We've just had a bad game against Everton, a poor first half against Aston Villa, and a team in Everton that are really hard to beat. They don't lose a lot of games. Yes, they draw a lot of games, but they don't lose games and they don't concede. So you've just got to put all that into perspective. We've got a really tasty game next week at Spurs, which I'm sure we'll talk about. We are where we are because we deserve to be where we are. We currently sit third in the league, and yet I get it, Newcastle could go above us, and by the time we play Tottenham on Monday, we could be slightly further down the table, but we are where we are because of the season we've had, and you've just got to keep thinking that. And if for whatever reason the wheels come off and we end up with a Europa spot or a conference spot, when we look back on this season, when we start our journey in Europe, whether it's Europa Conference, the Europa League or the Champions League, that would be the best. It would just be such a good journey for us to go on. So I just think we need to hold that and know that we've had a brilliant season with very few injuries. Things have gone our way, and at the moment we've hit a bump in the road, and it's how we deal with that. And you're absolutely right, Temps, to go back to your question. The fans are pivotal in that, and the City Ground is brilliant, isn't it? The atmosphere is brilliant. Other teams are jealous of the fan base that we've got and how loud we are at the City Ground. That, coupled with that amazing team spirit that they've got in the dressing room at the moment, a manager who really cares. Let's just keep going. What is it, 6 games to go? A cliche, but every game is a cup final and every game means the world. So let's just get behind them, which will start at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Monday.
They're the best.
Go on. I was just going to say, let's just draw a line beneath Villa and consider this a 7-horse race with 5 Champions League spots. The chasing pack has really gathered in behind Forest, breathing down our neck. Still find ourselves 3rd. Which 5 make it for you?
Which 5?
Yeah.
I honestly, I thought Manchester City were going to slip up a bit, but look what they did at the weekend. They were 2-0 down, came back and won 5-2. And against a very good Crystal Palace side, so you can't write anybody off. It's about who holds the nerve. I mean, Arsenal and Liverpool are definites without a doubt. We know that. It's just about holding your nerves. They've been in those positions before, and that experience, believe me, counts for a lot when you've been in those positions before. That pressure they can handle, and you know Man City are going to do that as well. The other 2 places I think are going to be, up for grabs. Newcastle, you think because of what they're doing at the moment. I know I have to say, I hope Eddie Howe's okay, because of, he was rushed to hospital, and let's hope everything's all right, regarding him, because he's a top bloke as well. So it's in our hands. It's all about belief. And like I say, I mentioned Rory McIlroy. I watched the Masters all last night. And you think, oh, he's walking this, but you keep looking at the scoreboard as a player, and you think, well, he's birded that, and the pressure becomes, no matter how good you are, that pressure will always be there. And it's who holds their own the best. Going back to what Emily said as well about Elanga, I've always been an advocate of starting somebody rather than bringing them on to try and get a result. David Fairclough, super sub for Liverpool years ago. They brought him on. He could do that. He was renowned for it. Elanga could have come on in the second half and pulled a hamstring after 2 minutes. So why not put him on from the start and, let him go? And if he's knackered, and we go 1-0 up, we might win the game. Play your best players. If he's on the bench, he's fit. Brian Clough always used to say, once you cross that white line, you're fit. And if you tell me something different, I'm going to have a go at you. He always trusted the player to say, right, I'm fit. And if you go out and you're fit, once you cross that white line and you do pull up, then it's your fault. But play your best players from the start. It doesn't make any sense not to. And that's the only, criticism I could have about that on Saturday.
Emily, if we don't concede that goal and we get ourselves out with a 0-0, are we praising the back 4 again? And particularly Matt Sells with that one-on-one save from Ndiaye? Yeah. Was it until the 95th minute another resolute performance from the back 5?
Yeah, I mean, up until that point, Matt Sells didn't have an awful lot to do, but it was another decent, solid performance from him. Milenkovic, his usual fantastic self. Murillo had the odd rick, but I thought he got away with it. And the makeshift wing backs as in on either side, fine. So I'd have been happy with the point. It would have been another solid defensive performance, another clean sheet. Disappointing not to score, but I'd have been happy. But it just goes to show in the Premier League, you've got to concentrate right till the final whistle. And what led up to their goal was just a catalogue of errors, which could have been avoided, could have 100% been avoided. I have watched the goal back a couple of times, and it just hurts, doesn't it? Every time you watch and you think, oh, we could have stopped it there. We could have stopped it there. Why didn't Elanga put it back into the box? Why didn't Murillo just pick up the ball? Why did Moreno pass the ball to him in that way? Why didn't Moreno then get the Everton player who's running through? And who was marking Decore? There was so much in that. And it just goes to show in the Premier League, it's really, really tough. And right until the dying seconds, you've got to be on your game and you've got to concentrate 100%. In the first 2 seasons back in the Premier League, we had those lapses in concentration. They seem to have gone. But unfortunately, on Saturday, that's what's happened. So, yeah.
Was a bad mistake from Murillo. He has that habit, doesn't he, of controlling the ball with the studs, just giving him that freedom to flick it out right or left with a view to pumping it long. Garry, 95th minute in a tight Premier League game. Does it just need to be hoofed?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, you don't take chances there. The mentality is, yeah, we can still win this, and that's probably what was in his mind. But the way the afternoon went, you'd have been, like you say, a point would have been fantastic. And if you look back at the end of the season and you miss out by 1 point, or that game could have cost us, then you look back at it and you think, well, you should have hoofed it. But Emily's, again, she used that word concentration. That is the most important word for me as a player in that Premier League, the highest level. If you lapse in concentration for a second with the teams you're playing against, you get punished. Very often you get punished. And I always thought that if you that was one of my mantras about, when I played, my concentration levels have to be ultimately higher than anybody else's. That's what I put on myself. And if you don't do that, you get found out. More so in the Championship, but when you get to the highest level, you see if one lapse of concentration can cost you. And you've got to learn by those mistakes. And, hopefully, Murillo's still a young lad, remember. He's not the oldest defender in the world. I think we think he's older than he is. He's a young lad. He's just started his international career. And, hopefully, I'm sure Milenkovic will have had a quiet word at his shell and said, you should have got rid of that. Because I like what Milenkovic does. You can see he's very vocal out there. He doesn't care who it upsets. And that's how it should be. If you want to learn, you have to learn. And if you don't do it right, you want somebody like Milenkovic telling you that what you should have done. I'm sure he did that, not on the pitch, but, afterwards. And, yeah, learn by your mistakes. And I'm sure we will. We, like I say, we'll not become a bad team overnight. It's all about bounce back. And we've done that in the past. Look at the Bournemouth, 5-0. And then you think, we beat Brighton 7. That's what you want. That's what the response you want from the team. And I'm sure we'll get that again.
A real gut punch, Emily. Everton swarmed on that Murillo mistake, a really effective break. And Decore finished with aplomb. But yeah, as I said, it felt like a real punch in the gut in that moment.
It really did. And it was that few minutes, wasn't it, where we were just holding out for that draw by that stage, and we were in an attacking position. We had a corner, so there was no stress, no worry, was there? It was absolutely fine. We were just playing out those minutes, and just as soon as Murillo made that mistake, I said to my friend Emma, who I was sat with, if they score from this, we'll be fuming. And as the ball hit the back of the net and the stands just emptied, it was just, it was a real gut punch, a real sort of, oh God, that feels horrible. We've not had that at the City Ground. When was the last time we conceded at the City Ground in the Premier League? Have we conceded in the Premier League in 2025?
Yeah, my favourite stat is only one Premier League goal conceded at the Trent End this season. But yeah, there's certainly a bit of a weakness at the Bridgeford end, where we've been a little bit more lax.
Yeah, it was just that sort of thought of, we've been unbeaten at the City Ground since November. It's been a fortress. We've played the way we've played. We've upset teams. We've upset the apple cart. And like someone said in the comments, they did exactly that to us. And that really hurts. It does. It really hurts. But, we've just got to put it all in perspective. It's one 90-minute game of football where it didn't go right. As Garry said, Nuno admitted that we got it wrong. Forest didn't play very well on Saturday for whatever reason, but we've just got to dust ourselves off, lick our wounds for a few days, hope that results go our way at the weekend, so that psychologically we're not falling down the table, and just hope that we can get something out of Spurs on Monday. But equally, don't rest everything on that game, because Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium isn't going to be easy. It's an away game. Hopefully we'll have our away fans being the 12th man for us. But yeah, it's just a nervy time, isn't it? It's so nervy. I thought this season was going to be a season of consolidation, and we all had our pre-season predictions, and we thought 14th would be a great end to the season. If that was the case, by this point we'd be on the beach, wouldn't we? We'd all be enjoying the games, worrying, where are we going on holiday this summer, rather than where are Forest going to finish in the league. But it's a different kind of pressure that we're under now. The relegation battle's gone, and we're now stressing over whether we're going to be in the Champions League or not.
Well, we'll break that apart in a second after this word from Global Telemetrics.
You're Nick Sunshine.
Told you won't get very far without one of these.
Some kind of advertising war developing between Global Telemetrics and Trent Nav. I think they'll have Super Bowl ads before too long. The rate in which their production values are flaring upwards. Let's talk about Forest in an attacking sense. A lack of spark from Morgan Gibbs-White in this one. Gary, he was denied space and opportunity really, but made some mistakes too. Was he strangled out by Everton?
That's what opposition are supposed to do. They're supposed to pick their best players out and nullify them. And you've got to give Everton credit. That's what they did. That's what football's all about now. When we played, there were no, there weren't the facilities to look at everything that the opposition does. Now you've got all the modern technology. You can do everything to try and break everything down from the opposition. And that's what they do. That's what professional football is about. Looking at what the previous performances have been like for the team you're going to play against. What are the weaknesses? Can we pick them up, the weaknesses apart? And that's what oppositions do. So give Everton, David Moyes credit for that. He's been in the game a long time. He knows what it's about. And, he's got the players, obviously, that he feels can do that. And they did that to us on Saturday. But, a lot of teams haven't been able to do that because of how good we are. Yeah, I agree with Emily. He's a massive miss. Creative wise, going forward, he just gives you that little bit of spark. And when you've got Hudson-Odoi and Alanga and Gibbs-White and Anderson all firing on the same cylinders, it's difficult to stop. But when you miss one of the components of that, which Ina's been, he's been a massive component this year, and massive plus for us. It's no wonder that people are, looking at. I've seen, the money they want to pay if he wants to leave Forest, same as Gibbs-White. That tells you what seasons our players are having, because everybody else wants them. And sometimes you have an off day, and the people who come in to replace that quality of player, it's difficult because you're not up to match speed. And match speed is so important, because it's like when you're a substitute, you think you can go straight on and get up to speed. It's difficult. The rare recurrences I was as a sub, it was difficult, to go on and get up to speed straight away. Training is totally different to playing. Everybody can train, but once you get out in that atmosphere for 90 minutes with the pressure and everything else, that the expectation limits, for you, it becomes difficult. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't work on Saturday, but you just put that to bed now. It's a loss. Yes, it's a disappointing loss, but again, I keep saying it's still in our hands. That's what you want. You want that, if you've got to chase the last 4 or 5 games and get victories, that puts so much pressure on you again. But we're still there. We're still third. Newcastle have got a game in hand. They've got to win that game in hand. It's not going to be easy for them. The pressure they might feel. It's pressure all around. And I'm looking forward to the last few games of the season, because I still feel we're going to get in the Champions League. And the job Nuno's done, if he doesn't get Manager of the Year, it'd be unbelievable. Yeah, Liverpool have done well, but that's Liverpool. They've been doing it for years. This is Nottingham Forest after what happened, last season, the season before, and where we are now. That is incredible. As a Forest fan, and a guy from Nottingham, where I'm from, I'm proud of. It's just incredible what has happened this season. It's not because everybody else is bad all of a sudden, because that'd be stupid to say that. It's because of how good we've been collectively, not just players. Everything's in the right place, from the owner, the chairman, the recruitment, the players. Everything is spot on, and we've got the best fans in the world, without a doubt. Emily said people are jealous of us. You go to some clubs and they've got no songs. It's even like "Come on Arsenal, come on Arsenal." That's all you hear. For goodness sake, how bad's that? We've got songs. You see the Trent end, all the banners that go up, all the thought that goes into what we do as a football club. It's fantastic.
I think you're lucky to hear that at Arsenal sometimes, aren't you? Emily, I'll ask you about Morgan as well. Moments of flashes of a couple of balls he sprayed with the outside of his foot, and those real flair moments. When he plays well, we play well. Paper talk at the weekend that he's on the summer target list for Manchester City. What needs to happen to get that bit more out of him in these tight games?
The big problem is, like Garry alluded to, your star player is the player that the opposition will always mark. So unfortunately, Morgan Gibbs-White, I would say for the majority of the game, was kind of marked out of the game. There was that moment, wasn't there, right towards the end, off the back of his foot, and he almost scored a bit of a worldie, but Pickford had his number, which was unfortunate. I think Morgan Gibbs-White he's kind of the cog, isn't he? He is what we build our team around, and like you say, if Morgan Gibbs-White plays well, we tend to play well. He's worked a lot better sometimes playing in that deeper role where he can go back. I know he's traditionally number 10, so it's just finding the right fit for him. There's bound to be paper talk about him. There's bound to be big clubs that want to sign him because he is such a great player who's still relatively young, but with an awful lot of experience, and he can play in those different positions. But that's good. It's good, isn't it, that we've got teams like Man City that are sniffing around Morgan Gibbs-White. How do we get the best out of him? I think Nuno has probably got him playing better than he's ever actually played, and he's just had the odd off day, and possibly maybe Morgan Gibbs-White is under a bit more scrutiny because of the level that he's already at. We can be very quick to judge Morgan if he doesn't have an 8 or 9 out of 10 game. He probably had a 6 or a 7 out of 10 on Saturday. But as I've already said, I think the whole team did. And maybe you could argue it's because Morgan was having a bad day, therefore the rest of the team followed suit. But we've just got to find a way of him still playing his game when the opposition are trying to mark him out of the game as well. And that's kind of a problem for Nuno. If I knew the answer to that, I'd probably be a Premier League manager. But yeah, I think, I've got so much time for Morgan. We're really lucky to have him, and hopefully we can keep hold of him for at least the next season. I think if we make Champions League football, he's going to want to march on with Forest into the Champions League, definitely.
Emily, sticking with you, because I still personally believe that Forest have every shot of making the top 5. Give me the confidence. Tell me this is a blip and not a meltdown after 2 defeats in 2.
It's got to be a blip, hasn't it? Because if you look at it over the course of the season, we've come back from nasty defeats, as we've already talked about, with the Bournemouth game then beating Brighton 7-0. We're only getting edged out of games, apart from Bournemouth. Obviously, we've not been battered really this season. The team spirit's there. Nuno, clearly his heart is with Forest. The fans are there. On paper, we've got some pretty favourable fixtures, I would say, for the run-in for all the teams that are vying for those Champions League spaces. We haven't got to face any of those top sides, therefore not taking points off each other, whereas Newcastle have got to play Villa. Other teams have got to play each other, therefore that's in our favour. I still think we're in with the chance. I still think we're in the driving seats. It's in our hands. As Garry said, we currently sit 3rd in the league. Newcastle have got a game in hand, but even if they win that, we're still in the Champions League spaces. For me, the worries are Newcastle, who I saw playing against Man United yesterday and completely brushed them aside. For me, they're almost nailed on for a Champions League spot. Then it's between Forest, Man City and Villa.
Garry, Forest next 5 in the league then. Spurs, Brentford, Palace, Leicester, West Ham. It can't be described as the toughest of run-ins. Certainly some of those teams around us have better teams to play. Does that give us reason to be confident?
Let's put it in perspective. It's tough. The Premier League is tough no matter who you play. Ask Chelsea about the game at the weekend. Everybody had said, right, they'd battered Ipswich, aside. They didn't. It's not that easy. When the pressure's on, it's very difficult to, lift yourself when you've lost a couple of games. And it's going to be interesting to see, how Forest react after this defeat. I think they should be fine. Like Emily said, we've not been battered apart from Bournemouth, and we've got Chelsea to play last game of the season. We don't want it to go to that. That would be hell for everybody. If the Champions League was hanging on that one performance, you don't want that. Yes, the games are winnable. Of course, they're winnable, but pressure brings its own problems, and it'll be interesting to see how the players respond to that. They know they're so close to Champions League, and that in itself brings pressure. But the Villa game, we lost 2-1, but we could have easily won that second half. The chances we created, if Chris Wood or maybe a one-year would have been playing that day, we'd have won that game. But we didn't, and we've got to respond. And you've seen the team spirit all through the season. After every game, the beating Liverpool and drawing with Liverpool, beating Man City. It's like we won the European Cup, the FA Cup, and the league all at the same time. The celebrations at the end. That togetherness is so evident at the moment, and if we keep that, we've got every chance of maintaining those positions at the top of the league. So I'm not nervous. Funnily enough, usually I'm a nervous Ned, but I still think we can do this. We've got the players with the ability to do it, the mentality, and the strength. So yeah, let's just keep it going. And the fans are important. They really are, because they are the best without a doubt. The noise levels home and away, it's just so impressive. And believe me, as a player, that lifts you when you can hear that. When you've got that behind you, it makes a hell of a difference.
We're seeing both positive and negative sentiment in the comments. Steve Battermuch points out we haven't lost 3 in a row all season. 3 instances where we've lost 2 in a row. I know, tempting fate there perhaps. Kevin Marriott says we look shattered, have been since the Brighton Cup tie. Emily, is the cup run affecting this? Is that fixture congestion and the pressure of competing on 2 fronts could it cost us in both?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think obviously we've certainly had to battle our way to get through to the FA Cup semi-final with all those extra time and penalty shootouts. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that we've had a season where they've had to play probably at quite a high level throughout the season to get where we are now. And it makes sense, doesn't it, that players are going to suddenly start feeling fatigued. Those injuries are going to start. I can't believe Olorena hasn't got injured before now. The work rate that lad puts in every game, the amount of games he's played, the minutes he's put in, the runs he makes. So,
I thought he has to carry as well. I mean, that's going to take its toll, isn't it?
The shorts?
Biggest shorts I've ever seen on a player in my life.
I have some intel on this because I saw an interview on a random YouTube channel with Olorena. The reason he has to wear such big shorts, he said, is because he's got such a big bum and the regular shorts don't fit him, so he has to buy them XL. This is from the horse's mouth, so therefore that's why he has to wear his shorts the way they are. He said he knows it might not look the best, but unfortunately because of his physique.
Do you prefer the tighty whities, Gary? I have to dig out my posters.
We've toned it down a little, but we've taken the pressure right off Forest by talking about his shorts.
Well, Gary gets over his
Olorena's shorts every day.
Well, Emily's not one to blush, but while Gary gets over his blushes, I'll read you this quote from John Percy, writing in the Telegraph, friend of the podcast, obviously. John writes, "It's 112 days that Nottingham Forest have occupied the top 4 and nerves are jangling at the business end. Is this a result of pressure, Gary? Is this what happens when you get so close to the finish line? And how do you deal with it?"
Not very often I disagree with Poss, as I call him, Poss. It's easy to blame pressure, but there didn't look any pressure in the Villa game. It was very open. Either team could have won it. I think we're taking this beyond what we need to regarding Everton, because David Moyes is, he's renowned for, being able to stop teams play. He's always done that. He knows how to, to nullify the opposition. So it's just one game. You know, we're talking about one game. Yeah, we lost 2 on the trot, but I haven't got a problem with the Villa game at all. I thought that was a great game of football. 2 teams in there with a possible, chance of European football, and it was 2-1, and it could have been 3-2 to us. So don't panic. There's no need to panic. It's just let's do what we don't change things of what we do. Nuno won't change things. We'll keep playing how we play because it's worked against Liverpool. It's worked against Manchester City. It's worked against the top teams. We've done well against the teams at the top. It's the usual teams that we don't do well against. Your Bournemouths, your Fulhams, and your Newcastles. We can't beat them. It's just fact we can't beat them. But, what we've achieved this season so far, semi-final of the FA Cup, 3rd in the league, come on. If one Forest fan had predicted that, I would have said, there'd been about 7 or 8 pints, and that's when they said it. Because it's been phenomenal. It really has. It's been the story of the Premier League this season. And if we get to the FA Cup final, for goodness sake, it's just, can anybody believe what we've done this season? I'm just gobsmacked by how well we've done. That squad and that bunch of players are so together and so believe in what Nuno does. It's great to watch. It takes me back to when I played with Clough and Taylor. You just believe so much in what they were doing, and you can see the players believe so much in what Nuno's doing. It's just so great to see it. I'm just over the moon, with what I've seen. It's just emotional, because I know how it feels. I experienced it, and being a Nottingham lad, to seeing what this group of players and the management and the ownership, the whole football club is in the best position I think it's ever been in, and it's just I'm so proud to be a Nottingham boy.
Oh, what a time to be alive!
Absolutely.
It's incredible. It's incredible, and when you put it so eloquently, Gary. We this is the time of our lives, isn't it? As Forest fans, you obviously remember it from the 70s, but for most of us, we only know that from seeing videos or looking at pictures, and here we are.
I think in reflection, in 5-6 weeks' time, we have to look back on this season as a success. But having entrenched ourselves in those Champions League spots and the fifth spot being available for certain now, the objective certainly has changed. Let's look ahead to Spurs then, Emily. A model of inconsistency. Forest have had a blip. Spurs have been inconsistent all season. A manager under pressure. Do you want us to go there, pick the wingers, and have attacking intent, or is it a case of trying to play for the draw? How do you want us to attack this game?
We go in there for the win. They are ripe for the taking. The way they play football suits us to the ground. They've got a high line. They're attacking. They leave spaces. We could exploit them in the most dangerous way. Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga could have a field day if it all goes to plan, if we all play the way that Forest can play. Forest need to play their game. We've mentioned this. Let's not worry about what the opposition do, but it's just coincidental that the way Spurs play is perfect for us. They are having the most topsy-turvy, disappointing season, even for Spurs. Spurs are Spursy, we know that, but this for Spurs is a disaster of a season. They've got a big European game this Thursday.
You've just muted yourself, Emily, in full flight. Big European game this Thursday.
Yeah, big European game this Thursday. I can't work out whether I want them to win or lose, because if they win, will they be buoyed? But then if they win, does that mean Ange Postecoglou stays in post, which means we've got more chance of winning? Because my fear is, what if Ange gets sacked before next Monday? Do they then get their new manager bounce, and we're the one game that they win? So, but putting all that aside, there's a lot of metal in this game, isn't there? It's Nuno's former team where he got fired and he didn't settle in there at all. Former Forest players in Jed Spence, Brennan Johnson, who are going to want to do the business over us. There's so much to look forward to with this game. I have to say, pre-Everton, I was scared because of the way they play, but pre-Spurs, believe it or not, I'm actually really excited about that game. It could be a really exciting Monday night of football, and the sort of game that 100% we have to go to that stadium wanting 3 points. That is what I want. And if every single player plays like I know they can, if we've got everyone firing on all cylinders, I don't see any reason why we can't get 3 points, and then that Champions League charge continues.
Gary, no better way to get over defeat to Everton than by beating Spurs. How do we do it?
Shows you how difficult it is when you get key players injured. Spurs, their back line, they've lost all their key defenders, and that hurts you massive. And that's why they're getting battered at times, because their key players are there. The players who are coming in aren't up to speed, and that can happen. But they are there. You're right, Emily. They're there for the taking. And I don't think our belief will have changed at all in the way we play, in the players' mentality. But you have to start your best team. You have to play, no matter, you think he's only 75%. I'd take 75% of Elanga being, fit. Right, go out there, give me an hour if you can. I always go back to Clough. He said, I'll carry you off if you can give me an hour. And you go out with that mindset thinking, right, if I do break down a little bit and I am feeling a bit knackered, then, I'll come off. But while I'm out there, when I start this game, I could win this game for us with, first 45 minutes. I can create something, I can score something. And then if I feel a little bit dubious, I'll tell the manager I need to come off. But start the best players. Don't expect them to come on if you're losing. That's back to front logic for me. Be positive, play your best players. And if you play your best players, we'll beat Spurs.
We'll come to the panelists for their final thoughts in a sec. A few messages about Matt Davis. Don't worry, this isn't a hostile takeover. Matt's on his veranda in Lanzarote, overlooking the sun and sea, having brunch with Mrs. Davis, and he'll be back on Tuesday and Wednesday. Gary, any other business?
Have you seen the weather forecast they've had in Lanzarote where he is?
What's happening?
Floods in their history. There's, and typical Matt, that is, going there. You can blame Matt for the weather they're getting. You know what he's like.
You can't help the weather, can you? I've just been blessed with the weather in Mallorca and Krakow over the past week. But yeah, you do take your chance a little bit at this time of year. Emily, any other business?
No, just keep the faith, everyone. We get through this week. It was a horrible weekend, but we're still going. And those 2 minutes of Gary talking about what it means and what it means to a Nottingham lad, what it means to a former Forest player, a Forest legend, I'll carry that with me through today, Gary, and into the next game, because honestly, it means just as much to us as lay people as well. This is the time of our lives as Forest fans. Let's enjoy every moment, no matter what happens, no matter where we finish. These lads have given everything for this club, as has Nuno, as has the fans. We're brilliant. Forest are brilliant. Thank you.
The legacy people keep talking about, in our day, and that our day's gone. We as ex-players, we want that to happen. To go past what we achieved. We're desperate for that. People don't think that. We were so lucky to be, part of what happened at that point. We just wanted to play football. It was nothing to do with money when we played. We just loved playing football and winning things. And we want that legacy to go beyond now. We want, because if they achieve what they do now, that'll be on par with what we did without a doubt. Because, the money that's in the game at the moment, the teams with all the money keep winning the games. It's a little bit different in our day. The money wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So it's just brilliant to watch what's going on and to be part of that, and look forward to going to the City ground and listening to that noise from the crowd at the start. You ask every manager who comes to the City ground, they know what it's about. They feel that pressure because of our fans. And the players must love being out there, because we won what we did. The crowd were never like that in those days. People say that now. What was it like in your day? Well, as a player, you never can hear the crowd. You just get on with it. But the levels of the support now, the noise that's made, and it's just incredible to be part of. Because we still feel part of it, because we played for this great football club, and it was a privilege and an honor to do it. It's pure and simple.
positive sentiment from the panel. Disappointing defeat against Everton, but every chance of turning the tide at Tottenham. It just remains for me to thank Garry Birtles. Thank you, Garry.
Pleasure.
And Emily Anderson. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Temps. Great hosting.
Thank you. Matt's back on Tuesday. Keep the faith.
Hey, Notts cricket as well. Won the first game, looking good in the against Essex at the moment.
Yeah, this is it, right? So the Team Nottingham thing's going well. Lee Wood's fighting soon. Forest in the top 3. Notts on a championship charge. But yeah, let's hope that Forest can maintain what they've started and finish the job. I've got every expectation and I hope that we will. And we'll see you for more discussion next week.